right, everybody, welcome back to the Triaxle podcast. Today we have Doug Williams on. Doug is the Triaxle co-founder. He is the chief operating officer, and Doug is also my brother. So we want to welcome Doug and give you guys a little bit of insight on Doug's background, where he came from, and how he got involved in Triaxle, and how he's been an asset to get this to this point so far. So welcome, brother, man. What's happening?
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be on, what is this, episode number 2?
Episode number 2, and you're on your own podcast.
And I'm on my own podcast that I'm
somewhat
producing in the background.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
You made it.
Yeah, no, I'm actually excited. The first one was really good, actually. I think I said to you after the fact, you have a lot of expectations going in and what something will be, and then editing that podcast, spending a couple hours in there. It was really good. Not to toot our own horn, but I just enjoyed listening to Eric Jumper and all his stories, and just sitting there editing it. I had a lot of fun. It was good.
Sure. Yeah, it was interesting for me. I mean, it was the first podcast I ever hosted, obviously. And I sat here, and Eric was a phenomenal guest. He had a lot of great stories. And I heard it all, and I listened to it. But when we finally, got it done and got it edited and released it took like a day or two for me to actually listen to the whole thing myself. And I was entertained. I thought it was great. I thought it was really good. I was happy with it. I didn't think I did too terribly bad for my first one. So, no, it was good. I thought it was good. And Eric's got some great stories and is doing some great stuff. So it was a lot of fun to have him on.
Yeah. I think I texted you. Same thing. A couple days later, I'm like, you know what? I should listen to this start to finish, not cut up into 1,000 clips. And I put it on in the car on an hour drive. And that's when I just enjoyed listening to it start to finish. So it was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got some texts too. People were liking it. So we'll see if they like this one. We'll see if we can keep the streak going.
Never know. We'll see if I'm interesting or not.
So with obviously on our social media, I am I'm the one that's on Instagram and Facebook all the time. So I'm in Northeast Pennsylvania, right in a little town called Dalton, and Doug is in Palmer, Alaska, which is about an hour north of Anchorage. So obviously with the distance, we're not getting together too often, and Doug is still working a full-time job while doing his part in Triaxle. So I'm kind of, doing the full-time thing, and you guys get to see me a lot. You hear from me, I'm the one doing all the social media, et cetera. But Doug's doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. He's doing all of our editing, all of our videos and our audio stuff. He's putting all of our graphics together. Doug was instrumental in Triaxle coming to fruition and finally, getting off the ground and happening. When I had, when things didn't work out with somebody locally that I was using and it kind of fell apart, I got to talking with Doug, and we started kind of collabing on it. And he brought his outside view of the construction industry. I was, admittedly, I had tunnel vision. I've been in the industry for so long. So I had my take on the app and how it should go and how it could work. And then Doug came in and he brought his business sense and his management skills in, and we got to talking. He brought a lot of great value for from somebody outside of the industry. And I think we, working together with his, his work history and mine, I think we were able to put something really good together. And, he's a big part of why Triaxle is what it is today. So I think it'd be great to kind of give a little bit of intro to you, Doug. What you been doing? How'd you end up in Alaska? What role are you in there? And, how did this lead for you, and get into this role in Triaxle? What have you been up to before this?
Yeah, sure. Obviously grew up in our hometown. We're Clark Summit, Pennsylvania natives, born and raised, grew up, went to the same high school, knew a lot of the same people, kind of your average, somewhat middle class family. And you and I kind of went different ways after high school, but there's a lot of similarities there too. Neither of us really, I think we thought about college. That was kind of, everybody went to college. The paradigm at the time was, go get a 4-year degree and you're okay.
Even if you're not going to use it, like even if you don't use the degree that you get, we were told, even if you don't use the degree you're going to get, at least, you'll have a better chance of getting a job in something totally unrelated, because people would see that you took the time to dedicate and to go to college, which I think is total bullshit because that doesn't even make any sense, No.
And I don't think we really knew that at the time. And I think that was always the accepted premise, even in high school when I was doing very poorly. I didn't enjoy it, and I don't do well at things I don't enjoy, as I've come to find out. So didn't really know what I wanted to do. I actually at one point thought I would go to a local, it was Johnson College at the time. I'm not sure if it's still there, but they were getting into a lot of the vocational, kind of college alternative tech stuff. And I thought I was going to go for carpentry or framing or something like that. I thought the construction industry would be a good place. A lot of us, I think there's a good bit of us that kind of want to get out and start doing something practical immediately. Can't really imagine 4 to 6 years of, just school. We want to get out, start using our hands, learn a skill, and just get to work. And I think you and I both wanted that the moment, we graduated from high school. And then on a whim, I joined our local fire department as a curiosity I'd always had. And we had come up, our father was very dedicated to, and is dedicated to, public service and community involvement. But that kind of grabbed me. Obviously, I got very involved in it, as a lot of people at the time did. It kind of calls you, and you spend a lot of time learning it, and it just hooks you. And from there, I kind of knew I wanted to pursue that. So that's where I went on and became an EMT, eventually a paramedic, and spent a good deal of my career being a paramedic. Worked for the Philly Fire Department for a little bit there as well, and then progressed into flight medicine, flying in helicopters, fixed wing airplanes, providing medicine, doing that. And I've been in that industry, since we graduated high school in one form or another. But that's not to leave out my brief stint in the construction industry, where I got my early start, doing some part-time gigs with the early ons of MHW construction, which went swimmingly. I was an A+, contributor, I'm sure, as you remember very well. So
yeah, that didn't go so well. That was fun. We just couldn't work together in that. I was young. I was starting out my business, and I was trying to be serious about it, and you and I had never really worked together in that type of role. So we butted heads a lot, and I know
we were kids.
You didn't like working for your older brother, and I didn't like having my younger brother working for me when he was screwing off or not paying attention. So yeah, we definitely butted heads a little bit. Might have been a couple hammers getting thrown here and there.
Yeah, that's accurate.
It was interesting.
Yeah, and it's never been that we didn't like each other. We came up, we didn't have, tyrant, strict parents, but we definitely didn't have parents that let us off the hook all the time. So I think we each had a sense of, completing a task, some sort of responsibility, but definitely pushing the limits of what fun was, or showing up on time to something, the value in those qualities that you don't quite have as an 18-year-old kid.
Sure.
Which I certainly did not have. I would show up late. I mean, you probably couldn't hold my attention for more than 5 seconds. We'd be framing a wall and I would be picking up a bug or something over on I have no idea. But yeah, I just don't have the attention span. At that time I didn't anyway. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
It was short-lived.
I think I came back. I think we had 2 stints.
Oh.
Yeah.
I think you came in and out a couple of times. Yeah. But they weren't very long when they did happen. Maybe a couple of weeks at most, if that.
I think I had a period of time where I made it more than a couple of weeks.
Oh, really?
I think the first time was short-lived. And then maybe the second time I eventually kind of left to go pursue my career as an EMT.
And I just flat out can't remember.
So
I'm not like, I'm not doubting that it could have been 3 months for all I know. I just don't remember. So
I remember we were building the garage. You know which garage I'm talking about.
Yep. Up in Forest City.
Yep. And I remember you got the stiletto hammer. Do you remember the stiletto?
That was a badass hammer. That was yeah.
Do you remember what happened to the stiletto?
Did you break it?
I did not.
Did you throw it at me?
No. You were.
No.
I think you were using it normally, and it snapped. Something broke. The handle cracked, and I could have sworn the stiletto ended up in the woods across the street, but maybe that was a different hammer.
I think a hammer did get thrown in the woods there, but I might have just thrown a fucking hammer off the roof. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. That was a long time ago. 20 years ago almost.
Yeah, that was probably just about 20. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy. That was a fun project.
Yep.
Learned a lot.
Yeah, that's
listen to the homeowner on that one. He told me that the power lines were on the other side of the house, so I didn't put in the one call. And then I dug up the power lines in the first 3 scoops with the excavator bucket. And a couple hours later, 7, 8 PP&L trucks up and down the road. They weren't very happy with me and had to deal with the repercussions on that one.
I think that's the first time I knew hydrovac existed.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
That was the first time I had ever seen that in use.
Yeah, that's cool. It was the first time I saw one too. Handy when you rip the lines out of the transformer 150 feet down the driveway.
It's nonstop learning. It's amazing to go back to your first anything when it comes to a long career in something and think, man, how did I ever make it to here? But that's the trail.
I put in the one call every time after that. I never listened to the homeowner about that ever again.
Yep.
So I learned.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a good time. I enjoyed that garage build. We did quite a few. I did a lot of roofing, and I was always the tear off guy or the ladder vader or whatever. I never really framed a whole lot or did much of that.
Some house framing too.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Some truck driving. I did get my CDL at one point in between there when I was younger. Drove a soda truck.
Working for Pepsi, right?
It was actually
Canada Dry.
Royal Crown Canada Dry. Yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting year. It's a competitive little industry. I would not do that again.
You didn't really like that, did you?
No, it was, I was making $11 an hour, and
driving a truck with a CDL
at the time, exceeding $10 an hour above the minimum wage of $5.25 was phenomenal in my eyes. Wow, 11 an hour. Okay. I didn't have any money. I remember in the winter, I had one pair of work boots and they wore through. So I didn't have enough money to go buy another pair. So my solution was to put plastic bags on my feet and then insert my feet into the boots, and then go deliver soda for 14 hours. Unbeknownst to me, your feet just sweat in those plastic bags and create the same problem you would have had if you just stepped in a puddle. Yeah. So that didn't work out too well.
Nice.
So yeah,
So,
long road.
so that was a short stint, and then you moved on after about a year.
Yep. And then when, spent time locally there in Scranton area doing, in EMS as a paramedic. And then uh, Amanda and I, my wife, we had always aspired to just kind of get out. Opportunities in my field for growth were not really prevalent in the area. So on a whim, I had put in an application for a flight job in Alaska and got it. And we've been here for a little over 7 years now.
And you got that job, and you thought about it a bit, obviously, but it was kind of a win-win for you. You know, be able to elevate your career and move out to an awesome state. So you kind of just packed up pretty quick and took off.
Yeah, there wasn't much time in between. We traded our cars in. We traded in for one truck. Went and bought a trailer locally. I want to say we bought it for like $4,000, and I sold it in Alaska for $7,000 or $7,500. But yeah, we packed everything into a 7-foot trailer with our 3 dogs, and we drove to Alaska.
And how long was that drive?
I think it took 5 days. We drove like 14 to 16 hours a day, depending on where we were. But it was everything you would think it would be. It was in February.
Terrible time to drive across the country and through Canada and up into Alaska.
Yep. It got pretty hairy at times. There's benefits to it. The Alcan, the dirt section of the roadway, was actually filled in with all the snow and ice. So in the summertime, it's dirt, potholes, it's all ripped up and washboard. But it made it nice and smooth. So got to take the positives.
Cool.
But then we rolled in. So we had originally moved to Fairbanks. So we roll into Fairbanks at maybe midnight, and we look up at the sign in town, and it says minus 44. And I'll never forget, my wife looks at me just with this gaze of, well, she didn't say this, but her eyes did. You told me it gets cold in the winter, pretty cold, but minus 44 is a different beast. But she actually learned to love it. I think we saw minus 60 at one point. It's definitely a different environment than growing up in Northeast Pennsylvania.
But those temps are more north and up in the Fairbanks area. You don't really have that in Palmer now. No.
There's a lot of the time where it's colder in Napa than it is here. I mean, it's not. We get our moments. We get our minus 20 here and there, but it's not prolonged. It doesn't last very long. So, I always tell people, if you can do Northeast PA winter, you can do an Alaska winter in Anchorage.
Sure. Plus, it's gorgeous out there. I've been out there twice now.
Yeah.
Once in the summer and once in the winter, and it's beautiful at both times. Obviously summer, we can get do a lot more. So next time I come out, probably be shooting for that. But I mean, it's just gorgeous country any time of the year.
I love it. It's, you've moved, you moved to Arizona at one point. You went to school in Montana. So you know how it is. You think you're going to move forever, but in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't know, maybe I'll come back in a year. Who knows? Alaska, it was kind of the same thing. And now after 7 years, it has become home. It's, it's not hard. A lot of people, I think, oh, wow, Alaska, that's the final frontier. We have Netflix, we have internet, we have Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, you have the accoutrements that you have anywhere else. Fairbanks was a little, I'll say, more rough. If you want to call roughing it, waiting 2 weeks to get your Amazon instead of a week. But but it still has a spirit to it where it is a little bit more difficult. Things are not as readily accessible, and you kind of just solve problems instead of standing around looking for somebody else to solve your problem, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Something happens, people come together, they fix it. I know you remember we had a big earthquake up here a couple of years ago, and it was not growing up in earthquakes. They're interesting enough, but this one was massive. Collapsed multiple sections of our highway, the only highway that we have to go to Palmer. There's no other way to get there. And I think they had that highway repaired and open in 48 hours.
Yeah, they didn't mess around.
And I just couldn't help but think, no offense to anybody working on a DOT crew, but with the bureaucracy, man, how would they have ever done that in Pennsylvania? It takes 5 years to replace a bridge.
We'd still be working on it.
Yep. So that kind of spirit of just get it done now.
Sure. Is that government in general up there?
Yeah, it seems. I don't know if it's because it's just not so big, or if it's. I couldn't really point to why, but yes. I mean, with any organization, government, you name it. This isn't just to rip on government, but the more bureaucracy you add, the more time things take, quality suffers, budgets, all that. But here, when it comes to our infrastructure, they seem to just have it dialed in. They do work with private agencies. They do contract outside work as well. But things get done. When we had the pandemic, they replaced a massive 2-section bridge on that same highway. And I think they did it in 3 months. Obviously utilizing lower traffic on the roads, but it was a full project. They got it done quick. I was, again, being from the lower 48, I was like, how did you manage to do this so quick in an environment that's not very forgiving? They just seem to do it. They get it done. Hats off to them. The roads are great.
And your roads are great. Your roads are better in they're better in Alaska than they are in Pennsylvania
by far.
And you would think by far, like they're a pleasure to drive on. And you would think that would be the opposite with the extreme winters you have there, with the amount of frost that you get. But it's the lack of salt that they. Yep. Maybe they're building them better. I mean, I don't know if they're using different construction techniques because of the frost, but you guys don't use salt. You use sand or you do nothing. And by the end of the winter, you're literally like driving on, like the stop signs are like at the height of your windows in some cases, because the snow just keeps building up. You guys plow, you don't salt, and you just keep them clear, and everybody knows how to drive. And that's a big deal. The salt just destroys everything around here.
You nailed it. It's a primary differentiator, I think. Growing up, being from the Northeast, I didn't know people didn't use salt. It's wintertime, you salt. They do not apply salt to the roadway. Obviously, your car lasts a little bit longer. It's kind of like Arizona. You go
a lot longer.
You go to Arizona and you see somebody still driving a 68 Mustang from the day they bought it. Same thing here. Things last, machines last, road equipment lasts. The salt makes a huge difference. The only thing that happens here is your windshield looks like a friggin' spider web by the end of year one. With the gravel and the things that they do use for anti-skid in some areas, your windshield's toast. I remember we had bought a Jeep Wrangler. We lived in Fairbanks. I bought it in Anchorage, and I went to drive it north. And I pulled out from the dealer lot, and I went a block, and the windshield was smashed. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I just bought it.
Just got it.
And the Jeep windshield is like flat towards the road. It's perpendicular, so it was just begging for it. But and people use studded tires, and that creates these grooves in the road on the highway. And it's not a big problem in my truck, but when I get into my wife's smaller Tacoma, I feel like I'm stuck in these grooves. So every year they have to kind of fix those, but I'll take it. I'll take it over road salt any day.
Yeah. The salt, it's a killer around here. It destroys everything. So yeah, that would be nice. That would be a nice break from that nonsense. We have trucks, they're 5 years old and the frames are rusted and all the components and the all the accessory steel underneath is rusted out. So yeah, that would be great. I'd like to have a rust-free vehicle.
It can't be good for the environment. I'm not trying to go like applying that much salt, the pH levels, rivers, all that. It can't be good for the vegetation and everything else, but I don't know. There's places that don't use it and they're still able to safely, or as safe as you can be, use your judgment. If it's snowing like hell, you don't need to go somewhere. I think the Northeast has this mentality of clear the road. But yeah, you almost get, in a lot of cases, a lot more traction on the compact, the snowpack on the roadway than you do if you would have salted it, turned it into slush, and then it becomes a nightmare to drive in.
Sure. 100%. All right. So how about we dig in a little bit? So so we'll get into Triaxle in a little bit, but what is your current position? What's your other job that you're doing now? Because right now you're working almost 2 full-time jobs.
I currently work for an air medical company, in a leadership role. So operations management, overseeing an air medical operation that operates here in the state. So it's demanding, to say the least.
Sure. And you guys, I mean, you're based in Alaska, but Alaska's pretty big and you have bases all over.
Yep.
And you do transports down into the lower 48. So you guys have a lot going on.
Yeah, it's quite the operation. There's a few companies up here that provide the service, but it's, I don't want to call it a luxury in the lower 48. It's a necessity to be able to move somebody quickly. The lower 48 use helicopters quite a bit. A flight from Scranton to Philly in a helicopter is much better and much quicker for a patient than putting them in an ambulance and driving them 2 hours. So the benefits are massive. Here in Alaska, a lot of the time it's because there's literally no road to the community. There's so many towns and communities that are not on a connected road system. So air is the only way. So I frequently travel down Southeast Alaska quite a bit. Juneau, Sitka, Ketchikan. Then, when I was flying in the aircraft all over Alaska, I've been to so many places from, Dead Horse, up in the North Slope, oil fields down to Dutch Harbor. So it's been quite an experience.
Yeah, no doubt. You get to, it's a demanding job. You're extremely busy. You're working almost 7 days a week at times, or on call, a lot, even on the weekends. But some of the perks are, getting to see the country, and obviously you've always been into the service sector, and you like helping people. So I think it's a good fit for you for sure.
Yeah. This is where I think, regardless of what industry you're working in, the problems at a 60,000 foot view are all the same. Inefficiencies, waste, scheduling, you name it. Think of a problem, apply that to any industry, and being able to learn about what works, what doesn't. And then there's a lot of good intention to solve problems and a lot of good talk that happens. And then what actually does it mean to have action and do it? So I think the skills that I've learned and the perspective that I've gained from a lot of good leaders as well, that kind of helped me and brought me up through this, has been invaluable, and it can be applied to really anything. That's where, when you first called me and really had the first phone call, I'll say, where Triaxle was born. I remember I was in Montana, visiting a buddy, and you had called me, and I could tell you were you were dead serious. You were going to do this one way or another. And I'm like, yeah, I'll jump on your coattails. That sounds good. No, but I liked the idea, obviously. And that's the funny thing is whenever you pitch ideas, how often does somebody tell you, no, that's terrible. That's a shitty idea. I mean, you could go pitch, hey, I'm going to open up a restaurant and I'm going to serve, and people are like, oh yeah, you should do that. Totally. Because we're humans and we like to encourage people and be positive and
Sure.
right. But there are some bad ideas.
Yeah, I've had a couple.
There are. I mean, even through the years before this, we've bounced ideas off each other. We've always, I mean, obviously you from day one, but we've always shared an entrepreneurial spirit. And when you called and we're talking about the app, I could tell. I knew there was something to it and done right. And that's subjective, obviously, but done right in our image would be something honestly useful and be the real deal. So it's interesting to be here pretty much almost 2 years later. It seems like 5 years ago, but sitting here, we've got a live app, functioning app, looks great. It works well, but also knowing just how much there's left to do and how much we wish we could do with this app. And those,
Sure.
So yeah, that's kind of how Triaxle was born in my involvement. I was just happy to be involved, honestly. Anytime I see somebody have a vision that is that good, plug me in, put me in. Like I'll help, I'll do whatever. So I'm just
and
ecstatic to be on.
I think I called you to vent about the frustrations, to talk about, what the next step might be. I mean, I've been working on this for a long time. This goes back to like 2010 when I first thought about it. Then like I really started going after it around 2015 and asking people and I was very like protective of the idea and, just trying to feel people out. Would this work? Do you think, would this be beneficial? And it took a couple of years just to brainstorm it and kind of like really talking myself into it. And then when I did finally, decide to go for it, it just didn't really get any traction. I was working with a local website guy and he was doing my other stuff at the time too. And we just couldn't get any traction on it. I mean, I honestly think 2 years went by, from idea to when he said he just couldn't do it anymore. So it's been a long road but I've been on this, I have been an entrepreneur, I guess. I've had a handful of businesses in the construction field. I also, have done a couple other things and some have worked out, some haven't worked out, but in a way they've all worked out because they've taught me something. They've been stepping stones to get here. And I honestly think a lot of what I've done over the past 20 years in construction has helped us build this app. It obviously has. I mean, it's a big part of it. I've had a very diverse background and being in all the different, areas that I've been in has been my education to what this app can do, how useful it can be, the inefficiencies it can help solve. So I think I've just been chasing it for a long time, and to go this long or up until a couple of years ago when we really decided to go for it, to have something for 10 plus years and not let it fall off. Like I just kept after it, and it might not have gone nearly as quick as I thought, but it's worked out, perfectly how it has. If I really went for it 5 years ago, might have been too early, might not have been the time. So, yeah, I mean, this is one, I really have a great vision for this. I think this app has a lot of potential to solve problems, both nationwide and then eventually worldwide. And, I really think it can do great things. So getting you involved, and it kind of happened when I was venting, and really like, man, I don't want to give this up. I don't want to, I don't want this just to disappear. I think this is something really great, but I'm just frustrated. I just can't get traction. I can't get anywhere. Like, what do we do? And I was kind of like originally bouncing ideas off you. And it didn't really take long. I think like the first thing I remember you saying is like, I'd like to get involved in something, something entrepreneurial. I'd like to do something. And, I don't think it was but a couple of weeks. We were like, yeah, let's do it. Like, I ran all my ideas past you. You brought other ones. You picked things apart. Kind of interviewed me as to what my game plan was and what I saw. And after doing that for a couple of weeks, you were like, yeah, I think this is going to work. Let's go for it. So that's how you got involved.
Yeah, we really didn't have a lot of time off in between that point. We kind of fired it up from there and just kept gaining momentum. We never stopped. But there was not a lot of time that went by between that conversation to, just a couple months. I think you came out
a couple months later. We had the contract signed with the developer.
Yeah.
I think it was 3 months.
My son was born. You came out to Alaska, and maybe he was 3 days old. I think we were upstairs on a Zoom meeting with a developer, phone calls. I'm gonna have my timeline off a little bit on which call that was, but either way, it just felt
that was the kickoff meeting when we started.
So, and that in its own right is an interesting, realm to navigate. Hey, I've got an app idea. Let me go find somebody to build it. That is not straightforward.
No,
that is not. But I will say, we lucked out. I do think we do have a good developer. The term developer is very broad because, we could go, find anybody tomorrow who will agree to build something. It doesn't mean they can do it. You'll talk to anybody who's ever had an idea or even tried, and they'll all tell you the same thing. How many people have run into an overpromise, underdeliver, or even if they were capable of doing something. So vetting the right team to do it was a process. I think we ended up with a great product. And
going back to that, it is very hard in a couple short meetings to get a budget number together to really lay out years of ideas and planning, and something that you were like I envision. Like, I think Triaxle is going to go far. I think it's got a lot of potential, and to really like convey that to our developer and say, no, this is not just some other app like this, and we have big plans for this. So to really get that message across and get them to like understand, like, this has got to be good, and try to convey that in a couple of meetings. They give you a quote and then you agree. Like, it's tough. It's a tough thing. And things got a little rocky in the middle, admittedly, and they know that. And what I can, we were 6 months behind schedule, but the end result is what we needed to get. I think it was hard for them to really understand just what we had envisioned, what our plan was. And as we start going and start building and things start taking longer, they wanted to move things along quickly to stick with the time frame and with the budget number. And we just had a plan, and we couldn't stray from that. So I think we did a really good job of making sure, we got what we needed to get for a V1 app. And to their credit, they saw it through. At the end, we all kind of agreed, like, all right, let's just get this done no matter what. It's going to be a great product for us, great product for you to showcase. And in the end, they got it done, and I give them a lot of credit for that. And I'm happy with where we landed with the budget that we had to get started. And I think we have a pretty phenomenal V1 app that we keep updating, as much as we can, and we're not stopping. This is just the beginning, and this is really just a V1. We're testing it. It's a beta, and I think by hopefully this time next year, we really have the true picture of the direction that we're going and the capabilities of it. And right now, it's out and it's live, and we don't really talk about it much, but this is a beta. It's a test, and we're adding new features, implementing new tools. We're getting feedback. We're talking to our users. We want to talk to our users and really understand, like, is this bringing you value? What else can we do? We're not just trying to build what we think is good. We want to get that input from them. So, we're in it for the long haul, and I think a couple of years from now, we're gonna see this doing a lot of good stuff for a lot of people across the country.
Yeah, it was. It was quite a process, and like you said, I don't think. I mean, not that we're going to go out and talk about it every day, but this is not cheap. Obviously, we're self-funding this from everything you've built up over the last 20 years. We currently make $0 because we don't think that we're quite there yet. We definitely love the product and how everything has turned out. And the way that it turned out is not what we thought a year ago. Now it's close. Obviously there's, the framework, the core of it is, but that's the other thing, is having the recognition to be nimble and to be, the buzzword dynamic, but you have to be, because once you see something and you use it, it's different. And then when other people start using something, it's very different. And that feedback, that validation, or, hey, this isn't of much value to me, that kind of response is going to steer where we're going. And I think, to our credit, not to sit here and, pat ourselves on the back, but I think we have saved ourselves a lot of pain and time by kind of leaving it an open book and letting the industry read the cards for us and tell us where this should go next.
Yeah, because, like this time last year, we were going to launch with a very short, like, beta or free trial window and implement some, subscription fees almost immediately.
Yep.
And that was out of the need to want to have some sort of income, something coming in, because I've sold off my other businesses, and we're focusing on this full time. So the plan was to start have some money coming in, but as time went on and we realized, we've got to test this, and it's the right thing to do. And a lot of people say, well, how do you make money? How do you make money? And it's kind of a funny answer. Right now, we don't. We spend money every day. But it's all, this is our research and development. We're live, we're researching, we're getting the feedback. And, I think we're doing it the right way, because you just build something, put it out there, and try to charge for it, and it's not dialed in 100%, or it's not what the user wants, you don't really get a second chance. If it doesn't work, they're not going to come back when you start another marketing campaign 6 months later and say, wait, hold on a second. We got this now. That was a piece of shit, but now it's good. So I think we're doing the right work, and we're taking it slow, and we're holding out for the long game. And I think it's going to pay dividends in the end, that we're making sure we get it. We'll never get it exactly how all of our users want it. You can't possibly please every single user and give them every single tool and little feature that they want. But I think we're on the track to do a very good job of coming up with a great, a great starting point, and a great, almost a collaboration of different ideas and different visions, and takes and, ours and the users, and we take little tidbits of feedback, and we're still, putting it all together. So I think when, a year or two, I think we're going to have something really great, and just keep rolling with it from there.
Yeah, that was the number one question at the end of talking for 2 minutes at ConExpo. Yeah. You would show the app off. You would go through the whole thing, and you're all enthusiastic about it, and somebody would stop and look at you and go, well then how do you make money? And we're like,
isn't that funny?
We're like, we don't. Yeah, like there was a trick. Like we had some trick up our sleeve, or we weren't telling them something. They would stop and they would look you in the eye and say, well, then how do you make money? And we would say, we don't right now.
I think that is funny. Like you get that question more than like, okay, what does the future look like? Or how did you come up with this idea? That's like the number one question. Well, how do you make
either like you're really stupid or you're really nice. Yeah. And there's no...
We're pretending to be really stupid.
Right.
Or we are really stupid and we don't know it.
Yeah. That and then once they heard you out, they were like, oh, okay, that's even to an extent a little bit rare. We don't love what we have yet. I mean, it's that we don't love it. There are features that we are testing that are not ready to ask people to pay for.
Sure.
And I think the recognition of that is just fair. And that's, to a sense, to our character. We evaluate it from us being a customer and a consumer of multiple apps and technology all over the place. And, but I do think we're close. I think we've built something. The framework is in, and it's going to be phenomenal. But we never want to overpromise and underdeliver. That's something ingrained in us. So, it was just funny that the reaction you would get from that. And to this day, every day is an expense. And man, it is not cheap, even once an app is developed, to run an app. Hosting,
And we don't have any employees other than us.
No, and that's the other thing is, that's where we're fortunate too is, you and I are able to do a lot. Aside from my career, I'm a lifelong techie, never made it a profession, never had any formal training, but as a hobby, my computer sitting next to me is water cooled, right? That's pretty nerdy. That's a pretty nerdy thing to say.
Sure.
But we have developed skills over a lifetime, and all of those skills, we try to do what we can, just the two of us. And I'm okay with that. We get a lot done for not having outsourcing. We don't outsource our media. We don't use stock images. We don't do anything like that. Everything we do is from your career, your knowledge, your connections, anybody in the industry. Everything we're doing, we do on our own behind the camera, and then we go and we edit it, and then we post it. So we do it all. Kind of proud of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. I mean, you're used to multitasking. Obviously, I was, used to multitasking with everything that we did with MHW. And it's the way it's got to be. I think a lot of people, okay, we got to start a new business. So now I need a marketing person, and I need a secretary, and I need this, or I need, those are just random examples, but you don't, for us, for our model and our type of business, you don't need that right away. I've definitely found over the years, you will benefit from putting the right people in place and delegating when the time is right. But I've also been very, used to doing a lot on my own when things weren't busy enough to justify that payroll and feeding those families. So, I mean, we're doing it all. We're the marketing team. We're the writers. We're the, checkers of everything that's getting done. So, but it's fun, and we're very busy. There's a lot of work to do. But the pace is good right now. It's good. I don't know if we'll be in the same boat 6 months, a year from now. I think a year from now, we'll probably have a couple people, but who knows? We'll see if we'll take it as long as it makes sense.
And it's, in a way, it makes it a little bit real. I think the user experience, if you message us, you're talking to me or you're talking to Matt. Like, it's nice. My wife's a language arts teacher, so she's good to kind of proofread things, except for the one time you don't ask her to and you fire off an email to every user that has a horrible spelling error that I was mortified about, because even when I send internal work emails, I spell check them. I load that. So that was a painful one for me. It's going to happen. But you know what?
Keeping it real.
But you know what? Go read a major news outlet story. Go read some of the biggest companies. They're littered with typos. I don't know if they do these by voice now or if AI is writing them, but they're terrible. So I still feel like we do a better job there.
Sure. And I think the social being real, we've had a lot of compliments on it. People like it. A lot of things out there are stock, or just text. And, I've got 35,000 some photos and videos, on my phone. A lot of them, it's work stuff, since I've had a smartphone. So we have a lot of assets, and we utilize them in different areas and how we think they fit. So I think it keeps it real, and it's, it also helps with the connection to the user. Like I said this, I think it was on Ryan Robbins' podcast last week, like Silicon Valley, the tech people, they're brilliant people and they can do so much, but they couldn't build Triaxle. They would build what they think the construction industry wanted, but we built what I needed when I was in business, or I would have liked to have had. So I think, although, there's disadvantages to not being, in that type of scene or having different knowledge or connections, I think we have a huge advantage for what we're trying to do and what we built. And I think it really shows in the quality and the functionality of the app. And I don't think anybody but somebody in my shoes and teaming up with somebody in your shoes could build it this way, because it's just very personal and close to what I've done for so many years. And then to just pivot from construction and excavating and crushing into the tech side, that's a 180 real quick. Yep. So, I'm learning a lot in the new role, but the experience that my business has brought, I just think it really helps with what we've done, and we understand things better than just a tech firm. So I think that's a major advantage.
You'd end up with a focus group and end up with a car that nobody wants to buy or something like that.
And stock images, which we loathe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it real. I've just like to keep it real.
That's the other thing that's, with the users, the user spotlight, the podcast it's one thing to build something and then present it to people. It's another thing to truly try to build something along with an industry, to include the industry into the build. A lot of what we want to do and we're getting out there to do now is go talk about the people and with the people who are of this industry.
Sure.
We all love to sit on Instagram and look at pictures of yellow machines, and I enjoy it myself. But hearing from those of us who are out there literally building this country right now definitely adds another layer of personalization to this app, to our company. And that's what we're aiming to do now, is we're asking, come be a part, come talk, come tell us your story. How are you doing it here? I mean, that to me not only helps us build the app that needs to be built, but it also just adds that final real personal touch to it. And the one user spotlight, we did with risers, that turned out great. I liked it. I really want to see where that goes.
I like the user spotlights. They're a lot of fun. I was in Jersey last week and I met up with Owen from M&O Excavating and his father. They got a great gig going over there. And I met with Jake from JTM Site Services, or sorry, buddy, I forget exactly what it's called. JTM. And then I ended up having dinner with those guys and Devin from Risers, and it was great. I love, listening to these guys. These are all younger dudes in their early 20s, or Owen's not even 20 yet. And I love hearing their take on this. I mean, I'm 41, so when I was doing what they're doing, it was a whole different world. I used to come home at the end of the day and check my voicemail on my my messages on my answering machine, or
Yep.
like we didn't even have like a business cell phone then. So it's a whole different ballgame. But I love meeting with these guys. Number one, just seeing how they do things and their different personalities and the different takes on business. Even just going over to Jersey, there's no rock over there. It's a whole different world. It's all sand. So just seeing how these guys implement different techniques, and they have different, complications or regulations. It's just neat seeing these guys, and I wish I could do them all the time. We have other work to do here, but I'm looking forward to getting around the East Coast as much as I can and stopping in and seeing. I love the industry. I love the business. We sold off our MHW operations, and I truly enjoyed working. I liked being on site. That's why it took me forever to get my butt out of the seat of a machine or out of a truck and get into the office and try and start managing, because I just truly liked working. So now that I'm not doing it, it's great to go out and just see the action and see what's going on, and more importantly, talk to the people. I mean, I love seeing American-made businesses. I love see young guys, get into business and succeed. I want to see guys do good, and I want to see, how they do it. And everybody's got a different take. And I just like seeing all the different businesses that are out there. So the user spotlights are awesome, and I look forward to doing a lot more of them and getting out and seeing as many people as we can. Plus, and it's great to kind of showcase the face of the industry. It is no secret we have a manpower problem and a staffing problem, and it's only going to get worse. There's a big exodus coming in the next 10 years from the industry. So, the younger guys are our future, and they're our app user. They're the ones, some of these guys that are retiring, they don't want to jump on a new app and learn something new. They're just cruising and they want to, just run out their time. But these younger guys, they're the ones with the vision and with the drive, and, they're aggressive and they want to build. So, I like hearing what they have to say and what they think of the app and how it can benefit them and how it can work for them. So yeah, it's cool. I really like the spotlights. We're definitely going to keep them rolling. So I look forward to seeing where they take us.
No, for sure. And I'm hoping to get out and myself and see some, what I'll call unique throw Alaska in front of something, it becomes unique, but just how it's done here as well. And go out and highlight some of these companies out here. So look forward to doing that as well. And I love getting on the job site. I didn't spend a career in this industry, but I've dabbled in a lot of things, and you've let me play with a lot of the machines you had. I am by no means an operator. I remember trying to load like wood scraps into a dump truck to take up to Uniondale one time, and it probably took me an hour to load like 3 logs, because I was just, you think with video games we'd be better at, or I would have been better at it. But you mentioned, I'm going to flip the script for a second, Matt. If you've mentioned to me quite a bit about the trades in this generation and their opportunity to get into it. I saw you make a social media post a couple of weeks ago asking about the high school that we graduated from, if they still have those trade programs. And I couldn't help but think, like, I'm not even in the industry. And I built a woodshed this summer. Yeah, it's a really nice woodshed.
It is a nice woodshed.
Everything and this is 20 years later, right? Everything I learned in the high school shop class. And I remember specifically, and the reason I bring this up is not to highlight myself or my woodshed building skills, but
which are phenomenal.
I was building this thing and we get wind. We get these weird winter wind storms that aren't associated with like snow or anything. It's just, it's unreal. And we got a bad one a year ago. So I'm like, well, I got to build this thing right. And I'm putting hurricane braces like up by the purlins. And I remember thinking back, and a buddy of mine and myself making fun of the woodshop teacher at the time for putting hurricane braces on the sheds they were building. Like, yeah, okay, put a hurricane brace on your shed. That makes sense. And here I am putting hurricane braces on my woodshed. And it held up.
And Mr. Newak would be proud of you.
Mr. Newak would be very proud. It held up to nearly 100-mile-an-hour windstorm this winter. So that's just one example. The knowledge and the opportunity that we had was absolutely priceless coming, and that was high school. We got that as part of our daily afforded opportunities, and the generation coming through school, they don't get it. And I feel like
they do still have some. They do.
What do they have?
So it's not as bad as I was afraid or I thought. So at Abington, the wood shop was gone for a little while, maybe like a couple of years, but now it is back. So they have wood shop, auto shop, they have printing class, masonry, and maybe something else. So I was pleasantly surprised because I thought I had heard the wood shop was gone. So I just assumed that it still was. So metal shop is gone. I spent a lot of time in metal shop. I built a lot of stuff in there, a weight bench, a trailer that we still have.
That trailer you built is unbelievable.
The trailer, we still use it. Casey still uses it to haul poles to the lakes to this day. It's 22 years old and it's bomb proof. And I've gone through 3 other trailers since then in business that have, they've only lasted like 6 or 7 years because the metal's not as good, the paint's not as good. I mean, I built it.
And you welded every weld on that trailer.
Every weld.
Yep.
Every weld. Mr. Frisco helped me design it. He helped me, lay it out and build it. So when I came back from my freshman year at Montana State, I was going back into construction. And I had a pickup truck at the time, but it was just a Chevy short bed truck. It was not a work truck by any means. So I wanted a trailer to haul materials, haul machines, whatever. Who doesn't want a good trailer, So I actually went back, after coming back from my freshman year of school, talked to Mr. Frisco, and he talked to the school. And I actually came in while school was still in session because I got home let's say mid-May, and school didn't get out until the end of June or the middle of June. So I actually came in while school was still in session. For some reason, Abington let me back in. I don't know how or why.
Me either.
But yeah, I don't think anybody knows to this day, but they let me back in and I worked in there and I paid for all the materials and bought everything. And some of the kids helped me cut pieces, helped me, fab up some stuff as part of their lessons. So that was really cool. I was really appreciative for that. I thought it was awesome that Mr. Frisco, put that out there and allowed me to do it and got permission for me to do it. Like, you just don't see that happening these days, So that was really cool. And at Trail too, they do. I'm actually going to meet with John. He's the woodshop teacher, and he teaches something else over there in their guidance counselor this week to talk about some things. So they actually have a pretty good program as well. So I just had this impression that they had fallen off. But they still do have some things going on, but it's not like they used to be. But that's where I spent my time. That's where I got the drive to make a career out of it. That's where I got a lot of my basic skills. I mean, I worked for friends' family in high school doing odd jobs, building little retaining walls, doing landscaping stuff. I worked construction full time after I got my license. Every summer, I worked on a construction crew doing residential, townhomes or residential custom homes, grouting floors, pulling wires, light framing, and I just learned it all. So those types of classes, and I'm not really sure, where you're going or why you brought that up, but they're invaluable. I mean, they really are, and we need to keep it going. I mean,
that's where I was going with it. We need to keep it going.
So we're actually implementing with Abington and with Trail. We are actually talking to them now about implementing a scholarship. I don't know if it's going to be a Triaxle scholarship or an MHW scholarship, but we're gonna put together a financial package for seniors coming out that are going either directly into a trade or going into a trade school. And we are, we're gonna have an application that they can fill out, and they're going to be, judged based on their work ethic, their overall character, anything that they're doing in the community. So, I look forward to doing that. I think it's great. I want to give back to the community that supported us all these years, but I more want to, I don't want to say more, I do want to give back to the community, but there's some kids out there that have the potential, but I don't know that they're getting that push anymore. I think, I don't know, it seems like the world's kind of lost in which direction, what's up and down and what's left and right. And I think it's
inconceivable for kind of going back to the, go get the 4-year degree. And again, this isn't to knock college. College is the right choice for some people, not for everybody. But it takes a lot of time to build yourself up from the kid that was in high school, laying bricks in masonry class to starting an app company with the success you've built in your own private companies. And I don't know if it's a lack of instant gratification or success, but it's like most things in life, you have to come out and put your time in, learn the skills. And then one day you kind of turn around and you're like, wow, all of that has allowed me to build this. And I think
sure
you got to apply some patience in there with it. But yeah, I don't see a real drive though from generation to generation to do much. And I don't mean that to be a dick, but it's different. It
is different. And I think there's some really awesome kids out there with some really good work ethic and drive, and they kind of get stereotyped with everyone else because a lot of their peers are giving them a bad name because kids are just lazy these days. It's terrible, and now we sound like old men.
We do, we talking about really do, and that's depressing.
Yeah, it is depressing. Back in my day, I used to work really hard,
Well, even at a civic level, I think I saw an article the other day, Clark Summit Fire Company, where I started was, they're paying their ambulance full time, right?
Yeah, can't get anybody.
You can't get volunteers, right? You can't get people to come volunteer some time for free, to help your neighbor, right? And that sounds like I'm sitting on some sort of high horse, but yeah, it is indicative of what we've instilled as a culture to the next generations. And maybe we just haven't done a good job of telling them what they can break those stereotypes, right? We were told, go get a degree or you're going to be a garbage man. Cool. I think garbage men
lot of garbage men doing very well.
Pretty good, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's that follow-up question. Okay, well, what's being a garbage man look like? And that's the conversation that never happens now. So whatever. And I've seen you passionate about breaking through those stereotypes, and re-engaging, this generation. So, that's kind of where that question came from. And it's cool to hear about. And this isn't just for sounding cool on the podcast. Matt hadn't really filled me in on the scholarship piece up to this point. So that's awesome to hear. We had talked about it, but I didn't know there was, like action taking place. So that's awesome.
Taking action. I thought about it about 2 years ago. I initially contacted my old masonry teacher through Facebook and brought it up to him 2 years ago, and he thought it was a great idea. And I said, okay, I'll get back to you when I can get it figured out and pull it off. And, year and a half or 2 years went by just like that. And things were very hectic for me business-wise the past couple of years with how busy we got, how crazy it was, and then starting to sell things off and the transition to Triaxle. So the time is right now to do it. And I'm looking forward to seeing, I hope it helps motivate some kids and it helps opens their eyes to what they can do. I mean, what does being a garbage man look like? It looks like you could be a garbage man riding on the back of the truck. Then you could move up to driving the truck. Then you can move up to managing. And the next thing you know, you own your own business and you're living in some slammer pad that you built, Yeah,
you've got 100 roll-off containers out on job sites and it's that,
sure.
That first step, that paying the toll, right? Being the lowly.
Yeah.
It's that being the lowest man on the totem pole does not look attractive. And it doesn't last that long. You gotta put your time in.
No, like when I started pulling wires and sweeping floors, and I dug a Bilco. I think it was like one of the first couple days or the first week at my job with McGraw Construction in Old Forge. He had me dig out a Bilco door by hand. It was just totally filled in after the foundation was backfilled. And he had a backhoe somewhere like in town, but he's like, it's this kid. I got nothing else for him to do today. So I dig that out by hand. And it took me like a day and a half. I had to dig the whole Bilco out. I thought it sucked. It was terrible, but I did it. And a lot of kids these days, they would quit, be like, there's machines for this. I'm not doing this. And kids, now this is coming from a person who anybody that knows me knows I'm extremely impatient with a lot of things, with a lot of things. But, and I've been impatient in business, but in reality, I've been very patient because I never gave up and I just kept on grinding and kept on going. But, kids, and I don't want to keep bashing them, but you have some that come, they come to work, and if they're not doing what they want to be doing or what their vision is in that company or in that setting immediately, they have zero attention span. They want to show up and start running the dozer without any experience. They don't want to shovel and dig trenches and be the laborer and set pipe in some cases, but some guys just show up and be like, I just want to run that. Like, well, unless you went to school and you have all sorts of training, that's not how it works. Like you need to work your way up. And so I just feel like a lot of that is gone, but hopefully, with what we're trying to do, and there's a lot of companies out there, I shouldn't say a handful of companies out there trying to bring a lot of attention to the industry now. You have a handful of guys. Bill DeWitt's one of them. That's where Eric Jumper works and those guys there. And I know Ben pretty good. They're really, they're going for it. That's their business. That's what they're doing. And they're trying to bring the attention, and they're doing a really great thing, and it's needed. And I'm stoked and thrilled that they're doing it because they're starting a movement and getting a lot of people behind them, and they're really doing some great stuff. And that's what it's going to take. Otherwise, if we don't tell people, listen, like there's a great future in the trades. We have young kids, even years ago when the natural gas boom came around here. There was young kids, 18, 19, 20 years old. They're making $150,000 a year up in gas land. They're buying trucks for cash. Now they were working for it, but they went into, a business where they were making more than most people do in 2 years with a degree that cost them $80,000. There's so many opportunities. So we gotta get rid of the stigma. Obviously, doctors, lawyers, finance. There's so many things that you need to go to school for. You have to. You need that extra knowledge. But a lot of these, blue collar trade type businesses, trade schools are great. There's a lot of good ones out there, but even just jumping right into the workforce and trying it out, seeing what you like. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, and we need to promote it. And I'm excited to see what's going on, nationwide. That I see, people with the same mindset as mine, and a lot of other people. Like, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity, and with all the people leaving the industry, a lot of these young kids have a very, very bright future, even brighter than I had. I'm in an era where there was a lot of guys in business. There's a lot of people out there doing the work, and that's going to fall off big time. Some of these young guys coming up, I mean, if they do it right and they treat people good and they do good work, I mean, they can be doing very, very well by the time they're, in their 30s, very well, if they do it right. So, yeah, I mean, it's a whole nother conversation, but lots of opportunity, and I'm pretty excited to help, do our part to promote it and spread the word and encourage these kids and show them, listen, look what I did. I was a kid that couldn't sit still in school. And if I was sitting still, it's because I was sleeping on my desk.
Yep. Same here.
Yep. But I just couldn't. I excelled in the trades. I went down into the shop classes every chance that I got. And the rest of it just didn't work for me. And there's a lot of kids like that out there. And I think they get pushed to the wayside and say, okay, well, you're just not good at this, or you're not doing well in school, so you're not going to do well ever. And that's a bunch of crap. You just got to give them the tools, got to give them the motivation, got to give them the encouragement. And, there's a lot of guys coming up that are going to do some really great things, and they don't even know that they're going to do them yet. But, kind of like with me, I just knew I went to school for a year. It wasn't for me. I just felt guilty being there the whole time. I skied, I worked, I finished the basement, half the time instead of going to class. And I still did very well in class, or, with my grades, but I just couldn't sit there. And they told me I had to go to a meeting to pick my major. I'm like, what? I'm a 19-year-old kid. I have to sit here and pick what I want to do for the rest of my life out of a book.
Right.
I was like, helicopter pilot. Yeah,
sure.
That looks pretty cool. Construction manager, engineer. It's like, I can't pick anything. So I just didn't go back after my freshman year. Started working again, and it hasn't been easy. I mean, it's been a grind. It's been a lot of hours, a lot of work, a lot of ups and downs. But 20 some years, I ended up building something that I'm very proud of, with a lot of hard work and trying to do the right thing at all times and take care of, our customers. And so, yeah, I mean, you can do it. I'm a testament of it. And now I'm pivoting, and I'm, another stepping stone. I've done all this for 20 some years, and now I'm kind of rolling that into a new venture and a new business that I have a lot of confidence in, and I think is going to do very well. So yeah, I mean, there's a ton of opportunity, and I think we need to show these kids that the sky is the limit if they're willing to work for it, and working for it comes in many different forms.
Well, it's a different order of operations. You're actually, not to be philosophical, but you went to college your whole life, right? That's kind of the difference. And same here. You can go and try to jam it all in with delayed, you don't really jump out and start working in your field until you're done, right? Until you pass the test. Where in this industry, you start working day one. And for those of us like you and I who are incredibly impatient, with, just getting to work, that's perfect. And then you're learning just by osmosis and by doing and by failing. That's the other big piece, is learning by failing on your own, which I'm sure you've done plenty of over the years.
Plenty of times.
That's what builds you and gets you there. So you're really in school from day one. You just get to spread it out,
sure,
have fun along the way, and build a life for yourself that you're in control of. So no, it's awesome. Watching, I do remember a time, I think I showed up to one of your houses or something, and I always knew you were good at what you did. I knew you did insanely quality work. Obviously, if anybody in town asked me how you were at doing stuff, I'm like, well, he's my brother. I'm not going to say he sucks, but I actually went an extra step to say I actually worked for him. And there is no sacrifice for quality at all. And there is no corner cutting. Like that makes for a long day when you're doing it right, because doing it right takes longer and you might have to do it 3 times. So I used to be able to proudly tell people, oh yeah, yeah, if you're going to go with my brother, you're going to get meticulous quality. And that's all that people really care about at the end of the day. So,
and price.
And, oh, yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention price, which
quality work at a fair price.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Even a lot of my employees had a hard time with it over the years because I was so meticulous and wouldn't give up, and it had to be close to perfect. I mean, I know guys, they'd just be like, come on, man, like, let's just get it done. I'm like, what do you care? I'm paying you by the hour. Like, I just want to do this right. And I got that reputation, and that's how we were busy, almost from day one, constantly, because we did good work, and I gave a shit, and I tried to always do the right thing. And, I think our slogan at one point was our reputation was building, and it was kind of like a cheesy slogan that I came up with, but I meant it. I didn't really like how it sounded, and we kind of stopped using it after a while, but, I meant it, and I wanted to do it that way. Now, that doesn't always help your wallet, because doing the right thing and going the extra mile when your competition is just slapping stuff together at the same rate, same price, like, in the early days, it probably affected me financially, because I took too long to do things, or I would underbid them, but I still wouldn't give up, the quality. I would still spend the extra $1,000 to get this, better material, even though I knew I was going to lose my butt on the job. I did a lot of learning in the younger days, but yeah, I mean, my customers appreciated it, but I know my employees were kind of annoyed with me at times. I could see it. I could just tell, like, they were like, dude, it doesn't have to be that good. I was like, no, it does. And my name's on the truck. So that's how it's going to go, So
I remember that well.
And that goes to staying in your lane. I've always kind of done my own thing, obviously with guidance, but have a vision, got to roll with it, and don't listen to the noise, and don't listen to what everybody else is telling you. People telling you do this, do that. You got to do what you got to do. And I've kind of always done that.
You could probably close right on that. Filter out the noise. That's one of the best pieces of advice I think you could give. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think so. I was asked last week what would be one thing, and I would say just stay in your lane, do your thing, be smart, and just go with your gut, go with your heart, and filter out the noise, and don't pay attention to what your competition's doing. To a point, don't pay attention to what your buddies are doing. If you have an idea, you have a vision, you have a work ethic, and you want to run with it, don't let anybody else hold you back and tell you need to be doing something else.
Yeah, it's been a trip. It's been a trip. I can't wait for what we have a lot going on. Everybody says that, but we do. Exciting things coming with some app development. It's been a blast. Working with your brother to build something is probably not something everybody gets to do. We're both meticulous when it comes to the quality we want the app to have, which the visions don't always align, or we don't hear them exactly the same that we're trying to explain them. We're probably in agreement.
Especially through text messages. That shit gets lost sometimes.
Through text messages with a 4-hour time difference across the country. But yeah, no, it's been fun. The same guy used to run around in the yard with a shooting bow and arrows up in the air to see if it would land and hit anybody. Or in Dad's garage. Yeah, our poor father. The holes are still. He sold the house, and when he sold the house, I'm like, oh, there's the holes from the arrows. That's why you don't buy your 8-year-old kids compound bows and leave them alone with them. So that's exactly why you do that. Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, good times. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and definitely looking forward to the future. You have a vision, I have a vision, and we're kind of bringing those together. And I think I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do. And I think
we're putting our heads together. The sky's the limit. Triaxle is going to do some really great things for the industry, and I'm glad to be doing it with you. And I know Triaxle is the success that it already is because you came on board. It was not gonna get the legs that it has now, without bringing somebody in that's shares the vision. I can text with, in the middle of the night if I need to, and we just work, at our own pace and our own hours, and you just don't get that type of collaboration from somebody that you hire locally to work with, or somebody that you don't know that well. So yeah, it's been awesome, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do with it.
Well, thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to the future here, and everybody go tell your friends, download the app. Can't not have a shameless plug with our own free advertising. So
we're paying for the podcast.
Yeah.
We're the podcast sponsor.
Yep.
So Triaxle is sponsoring the app. So go ahead and say whatever you want.
Go build your local network, spay and neuter your pets, and join us for next episode.
Yeah, buddy. All right, man. It's awesome having you on. I'll see you at work tomorrow.
All right. Tell the kids I said hi. Talk to you later.
I will. Have a great night. See ya.